Today, I would like to share with you some interesting moments I have witnessed in Washington. These experiences have shaped my perspective on policy and the future we are building together, and I am very pleased to share them with you. I am sitting in the strategy room while the screens on the wall are glowing and humming, and the air is vibrating with that low electric buzz you only notice when nobody is talking, and on every channel the same headline is flashing, the same chyron is rolling. The same shocked anchor voice is repeating that Representative Ilhan Omar's reported net worth is allegedly skyrocketing to nearly $30 million at the exact same time that Minnesota is dealing with what federal prosecutors are calling the largest welfare fraud scheme in American history, a scandal that is ballooning to $8 billion right under the noses of the same people who are now rushing in front of cameras to say they are doing everything they can. And as I'm watching this in real time, I am hearing the soft rustle of paper behind me as President Trump is sitting at the long table in that warm but tense yellow light, saying nothing, just breathing evenly, just watching. While across the country, the press room in Minnesota is turning into a circus. Cameras are clicking like machine gun bursts, lights are buzzing overhead, and reporters are yelling over each other as an official in a too tight suit is sweating through his collar and insisting that the state is taking this very seriously and that everyone is shocked, absolutely shocked, that fraud is happening in a program that is supposedly feeding children and helping kids with autism. And in the back row, a young reporter is shaking her head and mouthing the word really, like even she is not buying it. And then one of the big screens in front of us is cutting to a clip of Senator Kennedy talking about one of the programs at the heart of this mess. His voice is dripping with that deadpan sarcasm only he can pull off as he is saying this case is making him want to throw up on a potted plant. And I am not going to lie, that line is landing. The room in Minnesota is going silent for a beat when they are replaying it, because he is not talking about a typo on a form. He is talking about people exploiting autistic children as a business model, as a cash machine, as a way to milk government programs, while everyone in the political class is pretending they are shocked. And back in the press room, a spokesperson is trying to explain how a group of supposedly legitimate medical providers is going to Minnesota's welfare authorities and is saying on camera that they need money to help autistic children. And the words are sounding beautiful, compassionate, almost cinematic. And the state is nodding along and stamping the paperwork and approving the funding, because who wants to be the one caught on tape saying no to autistic children? So the providers getting their green light, they are launching their autism services, they are recruiting kids, they are building a pipeline, but there is a problem. The talking points do not cover. They are not finding enough actual autistic children to hit the numbers they are promising. The spreadsheets are not matching the fantasy, and that is where the story is sliding from sad into disgusting. While meanwhile in our strategy room, Trump is leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes on the screen as if he is reading a teleprompter that only he can see. And he is not ranting, he is not tweeting, he is not throwing papers, he is just listening and asking quiet questions, asking who these providers are, asking who signs off on these waivers, asking which names are popping up in both the fraud indictments and the campaign donation databases. And I am feeling the temperature difference between the two rooms like a weather front, because across the country, the Minnesota press room is spiraling into raised voices and stumbling answers and defensive body language, while here the only sound is the quiet scratch of a pen as Trump is jotting notes and circling names, underlining the phrase, "We did everything we could," because he is already knowing that line is coming back to haunt them. And as the feed is cutting to Senator Kennedy again, repeating that potted plant line, while the chyron under him is mentioning autistic kids, a $14 million autism fraud scheme, and a separate $8 billion welfare web, I'm realizing the script is writing itself. Only the people who are supposed to be the responsible adults are acting like extras who are forgetting their lines. And the only person in this whole thing who is not pretending to be surprised is the man in this room who is already warning about Minnesota welfare fraud years ago, while they are calling him every name in the book, and now their own mess is hitting the fan in 4K. Back in the press room, the microphones are squealing as another official is stepping up to the podium. He is fumbling with his notes, his glasses are sliding down his nose, and he is trying to pivot from Senator Kennedy's potted plant comment to something that sounds serious and technocratic, but the reporters are not letting it go. They are quoting the Department of Justice back at him. They are reading from the press release on their phones. They are saying that the DOJ is charging a woman named Aisha Farhan Hassan, 28 years old, with wire fraud for her role in a $14 million autism fraud scheme, and that she is also tied to the now infamous Feeding Our Future case, the one where they are claiming they are feeding hundreds, maybe thousands of kids, while allegedly submitting fake invoices and fake billing to the federal government for reimbursement. And as he is blinking at the cameras, you can almost hear his internal hard drive crashing, because this is not a friendly local story anymore. This is a federal indictment with actual names and dollar amounts. And meanwhile, in our strategy room, the screen is filling with a close-up of that DOJ press release, black text on white background, cold, clinical, undeniable, and Trump is leaning forward slightly, just enough to cast a deeper shadow across his notepad as the warm light is catching the side of his face, and he is saying quietly, "Read that part again about the recruitment, so I am doing it." I am reading the section where prosecutors are explaining how Hassan and her partners are using monthly cash kickbacks as a recruitment tactic to drive up enrollment in their Smart Therapy autism program. And the details are landing like punches, because we're not talking about some one-time $100 referral fee. We're talking about $300 to $1,500 per child per month. And in the corner of the screen, there is a graphic showing numbers stacking up. And I am doing the math out loud because someone in Minnesota clearly is not saying that if you have a family with 4 kids, you are pulling in about $6,000 every month. And that is not a signing bonus. That is recurring. That is a salary for doing nothing but agreeing to label your children as autistic on paper so someone can bill the government on the back end. And over 6 months, that is $36,000. Over a year, that is easily 5 or even 6 figures for just one family, all flowing through a program that is supposedly built to help vulnerable children. And across the country, the press room is starting to feel smaller on camera. Shoulders are tightening. The official is adjusting his tie and saying they are taking these allegations very seriously, while his eyes are darting left and right looking for a friendly face. And the reporters are asking him if he is aware that the DOJ says the size of the kickback depends directly on how much DHS authorizes for each child, meaning the higher the supposed level of care, the more money everyone in the chain is pocketing. And you can feel the disgust in the room, because in plain English, this means the more problems they are saying your kid has, the more they are billing the government, and the more cash they are stuffing back into people's pockets. And suddenly the moral compass is not just broken, it is spinning. And back in our room, Trump is raising an eyebrow and saying, almost under his breath, they are paying people to pretend their kids are sicker. And the staff around the table is nodding along. No one is laughing, because it is not funny, it is obscene. And yet even in the horror, there is this bitter irony, because years ago, when he is warning about welfare fraud in Minnesota, they are calling him xenophobic and cruel. And now the same system they are defending is turning out to be a perverse incentive machine that is rewarding people for inflating their children's problems. And as we are staring at the screen, another notification is popping up on my laptop. Social media is waking up like a beast. Clips of Senator Kennedy's potted plant line are looping with captions like, "Minnesota welfare officials right now over footage of people vomiting into flower pots. The hashtag that is starting to trend is something like number potted plant ethics. And meme accounts are already pasting Ilhan Omar's face over stock photos of calculators and money printers, mocking her reported $30 million net worth, and every joke is landing in the same direction, at the expense of the people who are pretending they are shocked that the system they are running is being gamed exactly the way people like Trump are saying it will be. Meanwhile, the timeline is shifting, and social media is not just a background noise anymore. It is becoming its own character in this story, because as the Minnesota officials are trying to look somber on stage, Twitter, or X, or whatever we are calling it this week, is lighting up with clips from older interviews where those same officials are brushing off concerns about oversight and calling critics alarmist, and people are stitching those clips next to the DOJ press release screenshots, and the contrast is brutal. Across the country in that cramped press room, a local reporter is standing up with a mic that is slightly shaking in her hand, asking about the parents' role, because according to the DOJ, parents are not hostages in this scheme. They are active participants. They are threatening to leave smart therapy and take their children to other autism centers if they are not getting higher kickbacks. They are shopping their kids around like bargaining chips, and the official is trying to say something about economic hardship and complicated social factors while his voice is cracking, because no matter how many focus group phrases he is using, it is very hard to polish the idea of parents effectively auctioning their children's diagnoses. And back in the strategy room, Trump is watching footage of these parents in the affidavits, reading the line about how several large families are leaving smart therapy after being offered larger kickbacks by other centers, and he is tapping his pen on the table. The only rhythmic sound in the warm, tense, quiet, and he is saying, "So they are scamming the scammers," and someone across from him is adding, "And the taxpayers are paying for all of it," and he is nodding slowly, because the ecosystem is clear now. Providers are gaming the codes, intermediaries are greasing the wheels, parents are chasing higher envelopes, and every step of the way, the system is rewarding fraud and punishing honesty. And yet on television, the politicians who are presiding over this mess are acting like they are extras in a disaster movie who just walked onto the set and discovered the wreckage for the first time. Back in the press room, a different spokesperson is stepping up and trying to pivot to data, saying they are working on reforms, that this is just a few bad actors, that the vast majority are doing the right thing. And at that exact same moment, on another screen in our room, a compilation is playing of MSNBC segments from years ago, laughing off Trump's comments in 2016 when he is calling Minnesota a hub for welfare fraud and money laundering, specifically mentioning scams tied to parts of the Somali community. And the side-by-side is writing itself, because the same anchors who are rolling their eyes then are now reading from the DOJ's own language, calling this the largest welfare fraud scheme in American history. And I am feeling that mix of anger and vindication in my chest, because you do not need to like the man's tweets to see that he is saying this is coming, and now it is here in full HD with federal case numbers attached. And across the internet, the memes are multiplying. New hashtags like number "we did everything we could" and number "no one knew" are being used sarcastically under clips of Minnesota Democrats, including Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, and others, giving carefully worded interviews about accountability, while screenshots of campaign finance records are circulating, showing tens of thousands of dollars in donations from people now indicted in the fraud network. And if you are wondering how that is playing with normal voters, the comments section is answering for you in real time. Across the country, the scene is shifting from the frantic local press room to a more polished national stage as Minnesota's Attorney General is appearing on a cable news show. The studio lights are hot and clinical. The anchor is leaning forward with that concerned expression. They are probably practicing in the mirror. And the lower third graphic is announcing a segment about the Feeding Our Future investigation. And he is saying all the right words about protecting taxpayer dollars and prosecuting fraud. He's thanking the U.S. Attorney's Office. He is noting that around 75 to 80 defendants are being charged in the Feeding Our Future web, and that dozens are already being convicted. And on paper, it is sounding impressive, but then the familiar pivot is happening. As predictably as a chorus in a pop song, he is saying that critics are using isolated incidents to smear entire communities, that the rhetoric around this is dangerous, that there is a risk of fueling bigotry, and the anchor is nodding solemnly as if the main threat here is a mean tweet, not $8 billion walking out the door. And back in our strategy room, Trump is watching this with that flat, unreadable expression. He is saving for when people are insulting his intelligence. His fingers are laced together, his shoulders are relaxed, and he is saying nothing. But I can feel the temperature in the room drop a few degrees because everyone around the table is thinking the same thing. We are all remembering how in 2018, local news investigations are estimating around $100 million in child care welfare fraud in Minnesota, with money allegedly being funneled overseas. We are remembering the whistleblowers who are saying they are raising red flags long before the FBI is raiding anything. And we are remembering how these same officials are waving it all away as exaggerated or unfair. And now here they are after the FBI raids in 2022, after the Feeding Our Future indictments, after massive national coverage, acting like they are leading the charge. They're actually resisting for years. Back in the press room, which is now stuffed with national media, a reporter is reading from a letter to lawmakers pointing out that over the last 5 years, the number of waiver participants is growing by about 25%, while active 245D licenses are rising by about 55%. But new applications for those licenses are exploding by 283%. And the comparison is brutal because it is like watching someone open more and more restaurants in a town where the population is barely changing, no new houses are being built, traffic is not increasing, the demand is flat, but the number of providers is multiplying like mushrooms after rain. And only now, after the fraud is headline news, are they pausing disability service licenses and saying maybe the growth is outpacing the need, as if that phrase is explaining why $8 billion in taxpayer funding is disappearing into a maze of fake invoices and shell companies. Meanwhile, the internet is ripping that language apart. Threads are spreading with users translating, outpacing the need as we smelled the money and rushed the trough. And short clips of officials saying we did everything we could are being cut together with shots of luxury cars, big houses, and screenshots of Omar's reported $30 million net worth, while the caption is asking how a member of Congress is going from previous disclosures of a winery worth between $15,000 and $50,000 to a range of $1 to $5 million, and a venture firm that is reporting under $1,000 in assets 1 year and between $5 and $25 million the next, all while claiming zero income from that venture in 2024 and 60 billion in assets under management on its website, complete with buzzwords about deep global networks in more than 80 countries. In our room, Trump is circling those numbers on a printed copy of her disclosure with a red pen. The warm overhead light is catching the ink like a warning flare, and he is asking with that slow, cutting calm, who is putting the money in and what are they getting out? And nobody in this room is pretending that question is unfair, because if anyone else is reporting that kind of explosive asset growth with no income and no clear investor list, they are not getting a polite fact check from the Washington Post. They are getting a knock on the door. Back in the press room, the atmosphere is shifting from defensive to desperate as another official is trying to reframe the story as a triumph of enforcement, saying that the system is working because people are being prosecuted now, saying that this shows the state is serious about fraud. But the more he is talking, the more the reporters' questions are sharpening, because they are asking why it is taking FBI raids in 2022 before any of this is being treated like a criminal enterprise. They're asking why campaign records are showing Minnesota Democrats, including Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, Jacob Frey, and others, pulling in over $50,000 in donations from individuals now indicted in connected schemes. They're asking how that squares with the claim that no one knew, and the body language on stage is going from confident to cornered, shoulders are hunching, fingers are gripping the podium, eyes are darting to staffers at the edge of the room who are frantically refreshing their phones as new memes and hashtags are flooding every platform. Meanwhile, across the country in our strategy room, the air is still. The only sounds are the faint buzz of the lights and the quiet clack of keys as staff are compiling dossiers, cross-referencing indictments with donor lists, and pulling old video clips of Trump in 2016 and 2018 saying very plainly that Minnesota is becoming a hub for welfare fraud and money laundering, and that money is flowing out through fake childcare centers and sham nonprofits. And when you put those clips next to today's headlines, the contrast is so sharp it is almost painful. Because back then the anchors are laughing, calling it racist fear-mongering, and today they're reporting the same pattern in their serious voice and acting like it is a brand new discovery. The deterioration on the opponent's side is visible, their narrative is fraying, their confidence is evaporating. Their go-to move of yelling bigotry at anyone who questions their oversight is colliding with the hard fact of 70-plus defendants, federal indictments, and an $8 billion price tag, and social media is smelling blood, turning their old quotes into punchlines, pinning Omar's denial of being a millionaire next to current estimates of her net worth as high as $30 million, captioning it with things like from not a millionaire to multimillionaire in one news cycle, and number Rose Lake jackpot is starting to trend as users joke about venture firms that have tens of millions in assets and 60 billion under management, but somehow no listed income on their owner's disclosure. In this room, Trump is saying nothing for a long stretch, just watching, just letting the images and numbers stack up, and then he is pushing his chair back slightly. The leather creak is loud in the quiet, and he is standing to go to the small studio down the hall where the camera's already being set up, because he is about to do what his opponents never managed to do when they are under fire. He is about to look directly into the lens, speak in plain language, and walk ordinary people through what is happening without needing to hide behind jargon or perform outrage. And as we are following him out, the light in the strategy room is dimming behind us. The hum of the screens is fading. And I am thinking how crazy it is that the same man they're painting as unstable is the only one in this entire scandal who is acting like an adult in the room.